If you were born in 1960 or later, your full retirement age is already 67, not 65. That change did not come out of nowhere this year. It was written into law in 1983, and it has been moving up 2 months at a time ever since, quietly, through every birth year in between. So when you hear that they are talking about raising it again, the honest answer is that they already did it once, and most people never noticed, because it arrived one birthday at a time. Tonight we look at the option that is on the table now, who it would actually touch, and what one number that nobody quotes says about whether it would even fix anything. Let me start where every one of these conversations should start, which is with your own birth year, because a lot of people are worrying about a number that does not apply to them. Here is the current schedule, straight from the agency. If you were born from 1943 through 1954, your full retirement age is 66. Born in 1955, it is 66 and 2 months. Born in 1956, 66 and 4 months. Born in 1957, 66 and 6 months. Born in 1958, 66 and 8 months. Born in 1959, 66 and 10 months. And if you were born in 1960 or any year after that, it is 67. Now look at that list again, because it is not just a reference table. It is a photograph of a retirement age being raised in slow motion. Somebody born in 1954 and somebody born in 1960 are 6 years apart in age and a full year apart in when they can collect an unreduced benefit. Neither of them voted on that. It was decided before either of them was thinking about retirement at all. That is the part I want you to hold on to, because it tells you how this kind of change actually happens in this country, not with a switch that flips, with a staircase that takes 40 years to climb so that at any given moment, almost nobody feels it. Now, what does the full retirement age actually control? 3 things, and they are worth separating. The first is the size of your monthly check when you claim. Your full retirement age is the age at which you get 100% of what you earned. Claim before it and you take a permanent reduction. Claim after it and you earn delayed credits up to age 70. The second is how big that reduction is. And this is where a change in the age quietly becomes a change in your money. If your full retirement age is 67 and you claim at 62, the agency's own planner says your benefit is about 30% lower than it would have been, not for a year, for the rest of your life, and for a surviving spouse afterward in most cases. The third thing it controls is the earnings test, which is a whole separate conversation and one we did recently, so I will only say this part. Before your full retirement age, working while collecting can hold back part of your check. At your full retirement age, that stops. So the age is not a ceremonial number. It is the anchor that 3 different rules are tied to, which brings us to the option that is being discussed now. The Congressional Budget Office keeps a published catalog of options for the federal budget, and one of them is raising the full retirement age. I want to be careful with my words here, because this is where most of the videos on this subject go off the rails. This is an option in an analysis. It is not a law. Nobody has voted on it. It is a description of what would happen if Congress chose to do a specific thing. Here is the specific thing. Under the option as written, someone born in 1965 would have a full retirement age of 67 years and 3 months. Then it goes up by another 3 months for each birth year after that. And it keeps climbing until it reaches age 69 for anyone born in 1972 or later. Read that carefully and you will see the same technique as 1983. 3 months per birth year. Nobody wakes up to a 2-year jump. Each cohort gets a slightly worse deal than the one before it, and no single group has a moment loud enough to organize around. So now the practical question. Who does this touch? If you were born in 1964 or earlier, this option as written does not change your full retirement age at all. If you are watching this, and you are 62 today, or 65 today, or already collecting, the option on the table does not move your number. If you were born from 1965 onward, it moves by 3 months for each year after 1964. And if you were born in 1972 or later, your full retirement age under this option would be 69, which is 2 full years later than the 67 you have been planning around. Let me put actual money on that, because 2 years sounds abstract until it is a monthly amount. Remember the reduction rule. Claiming early cuts your check, and the size of the cut depends on how far in advance of your full retirement age you claim. If the full retirement age moves from 67 to 69, then someone claiming at 62 is now claiming 7 years early instead of 5. The reduction gets deeper. The person did not change their plans at all. The measuring point moved away from them. And there is a second effect that is easier to miss. If you intended to work until your full retirement age and then stop, and that age moves 2 years later, you have 2 options, and neither one is free. Work 2 more years, which your body may or may not agree to, or claim at the age you always planned to claim and accept a permanently smaller check for the rest of your life. That is what the phrase raising the retirement age means in a kitchen instead of in a budget document. It is not a rule about when you are allowed to stop working. It is a benefit reduction wearing a different hat. Now here is the number almost nobody quotes, and it is the reason I wanted to make this episode. The Congressional Budget Office, in the same analysis, says that raising the full retirement age this way would not extend the projected exhaustion date of the combined trust funds. Let me say that again, because it is the single most useful sentence in this entire subject. The office that scored the option says the option does not move the date. What it does do is shrink the annual gap in the long run. Their estimate is that the yearly shortfall would be about 0.5 percentage point of gross domestic product, smaller in 2098 than under current law. That is a real effect, 70 years out. It is just not the effect that people assume when they hear that a change is being made to save Social Security. So if somebody tells you that raising the retirement age is what saves the program, you now know how to answer that. It softens the long-run gap. According to the people who scored it, it does not move the day the reserves run out. Which brings me to that day, since we have to talk about it. The 2026 Trustees report came out in June, and the headline is that the projection held steady from the year before. Under the intermediate assumptions, which is their best estimate, the combined reserves of the 2 trust funds are projected to last until 2034. At that point, the incoming revenue would still cover about 83% of scheduled benefits. I want to translate that carefully because this is where fear does the most damage. Depletion does not mean the money stops. Social Security is funded primarily by payroll taxes coming in from people who are working right now, and those keep coming in. What runs out is the reserve that has been covering the difference between what comes in and what goes out. When the reserve is gone, the program can only pay what is arriving, so the projection is not 0. The projection is roughly 83 cents on the dollar, unless Congress acts before then. And notice something about the arithmetic. If a change that raises the retirement age to 69 does not move the 2034 date, then the actual decisions about 2034 are still ahead of us, and they are different decisions. Let me give you the honest summary of where that leaves an individual person. If you are in your 60s now, nothing being discussed in this option touches your full retirement age. Your number is on the chart I read at the start, and it is fixed by the year you were born. If you are in your 50s, you are in the zone where the option would start to bite, 3 months at a time, and the further you are from 1964, the more it bites. If you are in your 40s, you are in the group the option takes 2 full years from. And for every one of those groups, the same practical advice applies, which is that the only variable you fully control is when you claim relative to your own full retirement age, whatever number that turns out to be. Everything else is decided in a building you do not sit in. Let me take the 3 questions I know are forming right now because they come up every single time. Question 1. Does this move the age you can first claim? The option I described is written about the full retirement age. It does not say anything about the earliest claiming age. So, under the option as written, the earliest age stays where it is, and what changes is how far that early age sits from your full retirement age, which is exactly what makes the reduction deeper. I want to be precise about that distinction because a lot of people hear raising the retirement age and picture a locked door at 62. That is not what this is. The door stays open. What is behind it is worth less. Question 2. What about the credits for waiting? Same answer, same reason. The option is about the anchor point, not about the credits on either side of it. But notice what happens to the credits in practice if the anchor moves later. Delayed credits run to age 70 under current rules. If your full retirement age were 69, the window for earning those credits would be 1 year wide instead of 3. The rule would not have changed. The room to use it would have shrunk. Question 3. What if I cannot physically work that long? This is the question that deserves the most respect, and it is the one budget documents are worst at answering. A retirement age is a number that assumes a body. The people who reach their 60s still able to do their jobs are not evenly distributed across the workforce, and everybody who has ever done physical work for a living knows exactly what I mean. When the anchor moves later, the person who can keep working absorbs it by working. The person who cannot absorb it by taking the deeper reduction. That is not a technical detail. It decides who pays for the change. I am not going to tell you what to think about that. It is not my place, and this channel does not do politics. But I want you to have the sentence, because it is the sentence that is usually missing. Let me make all of it concrete with 2 people. The first, I will call Carla, born in 1963. Her full retirement age is 67, and under the option we have been discussing, it stays 67, because the option starts with people born in 1965. If Carla claims at 62, she takes roughly a 30% reduction, and that would be true whether or not Congress ever touches this. Carla's decision is a personal one about health, work, savings, and whether a spouse's survivor benefit depends on her number. It is not a decision about legislation, and she can stop reading the headlines about this particular option. The second, I will call Devon, born in 1974. Under the option, Devon's full retirement age would be 69. Devon is in his early 50s now, which means he has time, and time is the only real advantage anyone has in this. If he plans as if 69 is possible, and it does not happen, he will have saved more than he needed, and can claim earlier than planned with a bigger cushion. If he plans as if 67 is guaranteed, and the anchor moves, he absorbs the whole change in one lump at the worst possible moment, which is the year he wanted to stop. That asymmetry is the practical heart of this episode. Planning for the later number costs you flexibility you can get back. Planning for the earlier number costs you money you cannot. One more piece of context that helps, and then I will get to what to do. Every one of these fixes people talk about falls into a small number of categories. You can bring more money in, you can pay less out, or you can move the timing. Raising the retirement age is in the middle group, paying less out, dressed as the third one. Recognizing which category a proposal is in tells you more than any headline about it, because the category tells you who is going to pay for it. When more money comes in, it is paid by workers and employers. When less goes out, it is paid by beneficiaries. When timing moves, it is paid by whoever is standing closest to the line. None of that tells you whether a given change is right or wrong. It just tells you where to look for yourself in it. So let me give you 3 things to do instead of worrying. First, find out your actual number tonight, not what your brother-in-law said. Look at the chart by birth year, or use the agency's retirement age calculator on their own site. It takes 90 seconds, and it settles the question permanently for anyone born before 1965. Second, look at your earnings record. This matters more than the retirement age debate for most people, and it is the one thing you can still fix. Your benefit is calculated from your highest 35 years, and if there are missing years or wrong amounts in there, you are being measured with bad data. That is worth an hour of your time. Third, if you are in the group that could be affected, build your plan around a range instead of a single date. A plan that only works if you can claim at exactly 67 is a fragile plan. A plan that still works if the number moves, or if your health moves it for you, is a plan that survives contact with real life. And here is the thing I keep coming back to. The 1983 change worked precisely because it was slow and quiet. If you learn nothing else tonight, learn to watch for the slow and quiet ones. The proposals with a big number in the headline get argued about for years and usually die. The ones that add 3 months per birth year pass, and 40 years later somebody makes a video explaining why your parents retired at 65 and you cannot. Before I go, the usual and necessary reminder. I am not a financial advisor, an attorney, or a government employee, and none of this is advice about your particular situation. The figures here come from the agency's own published planners, from the 2026 Trustees report, and from the Congressional Budget Office analysis. The option I described is an analysis, not a law, and laws change. Confirm your own number with Social Security before you make a claiming decision. Now, I would like to hear from you. What year were you born, and had you ever been told that your full retirement age was already moved once? I ask because I have found that the people most surprised by that chart are usually the ones closest to using it. If this helped, subscribe. The next one I would send you to is on claiming at 62 versus 67 versus 70, because everything in tonight's episode changes the math in that one. I'm your host at Social Security Decoded. Know the rule, then decide, not the other way around.